When I came home that October evening, the sky over Evanston hung low and heavy, the kind of sky that makes the world feel smaller, quieter, more fragile. I remember the weight of my briefcase pulling at my shoulder, the dull ache in my back from the business trip, and the faint hope that stepping through my front door would feel like relief. Instead, the moment I opened it, a strange emptiness rushed at me like a cold wind. The house was silent, too silent, as though someone had pressed pause on everything alive inside it. For a second I stood there, keys in my hand, wondering why something deep inside my chest felt suddenly tight. I called out, "Sophie, I'm home, sweetheart," expecting her voice, her feet on the stairs, her usual bright energy rushing toward me. But there was nothing, just the hum of the refrigerator and the distant ticking of the old clock Audrey insisted we keep even though it was too loud. I walked into the kitchen and found her sitting at the table. Her math book was open, pencils scattered, eraser dust smudged across the page, but she wasn't working, she wasn't doing anything. Her little hands were flat against the paper, her shoulders slumped, her eyes staring somewhere far beyond the room. "Hey kiddo," I said softly, moving closer. "How was school?" "Fine," she whispered without looking up. That one word, that empty little word, hit me harder than any argument or shout could have. For 2 weeks now I had been collecting moments like this, moments where my daughter seemed to fade a little more, moments when her spark dimmed. Sophie, my talkative, bright-eyed, curious child, had become quiet, weary, distant. She'd fall asleep on the couch after school for hours. When she woke, she looked confused, like she didn't know what day it was or where she was supposed to be. Her skin had grown pale, her eyes ringed with dark shadows. I had asked Audrey about it twice. Both times she waved it away with a quick smile and a shrug. "She's growing, Harrison. Kids get tired, don't make everything a crisis." But my instinct gnawed at me, something was wrong. I took chicken out of the fridge, turned the stove on, and tried to pretend everything was normal. "Want to help me with dinner?" I asked, hoping maybe engagement would pull her back a little. She shook her head. "I'm not hungry." The silence swelled between us, thick and uncomfortable. I turned off the burner and sat beside her. "Sophie, talk to me. What's going on?" She didn't look at me. Instead, her eyes started to fill slowly, like tears were rising from deep inside her chest. "Sweetheart," I said, my heart tightening. Her lip trembled. She swallowed hard. And then, barely more than a breath, she whispered, "Dad, can I stop taking the pills Mom gives me? I hate them. They make me feel weird." My entire body went cold. "What pills?" I asked, trying not to let panic show in my voice. "The vitamins," she said quietly. "Mom says they're vitamins, but every time I take one I get so sleepy I can't stay awake. I sleep for hours, and when I wake up everything feels slow, foggy." My mind raced. Audrey hadn't told me anything about vitamins, no doctor appointments, no conversations, no warnings, nothing. "How long has this been happening?" I asked. 2 weeks, maybe more. "The first time was a Saturday when you went to the office. Mom said it would help me focus better." "Focus better? On what? Homework, life, or on leaving her alone? How many times has she given them to you?" "4, maybe 5. "Not every day, just when you're not home." That sentence carved itself into me. "When you're not home." I steadied my breath. "Sweetheart, can you show me the bottle?" She nodded and went upstairs. Those seconds felt like a lifetime. When she returned, she held a small white plastic bottle in her hands like she was afraid it would burn her. There was no label, no pharmacy sticker, no instructions. Just a piece of masking tape with one word in Audrey's neat handwriting. "Vitamins." I opened it. Inside were small, white, unmarked pills. He kissed her, she kissed him back. I watched until I couldn't breathe. The marriage I thought I had, the family I believed in, the woman I trusted gone. Over the next days I recorded everything, every laugh, every touch, every kiss. Then I went through the finances, found the cash withdrawals, hotel receipts, Tiffany's necklace she'd never worn for me, $20,000 gone in 6 months, my daughter drugged, my money stolen, my trust destroyed, my heart numb. I contacted a divorce attorney, filed for full custody, and then I confronted Audrey, along with her mother, Judith, who had loved me like a son. Walking into the living room with Judith beside me and seeing Audrey tangled with Gavin on our couch was a moment I will never forget. Judith gasped, Audrey scrambled, Gavin fled, and the truth spilled from everywhere, her lies, her betrayal, her excuses. When I said, "You drugged our daughter," something inside Audrey collapsed. She begged, she cried, she promised, but I was done. Judith was done. I took Sophie, filed for divorce, won full custody. We sold the old house. I found a small apartment in Lincoln Park with windows facing Lake Michigan. Sunshine fills the rooms now. Sophie painted her walls pale blue. She made new friends. She laughs again. She sleeps peacefully. Sometimes she looks at me and says, "Dad, I feel safe with you." And every time she says it, something inside me breaks and heals all at once. Because the truth is, this story isn't about betrayal. It isn't about divorce. It isn't about catching someone cheating. It's about a moment in a quiet kitchen when my daughter asked, "Dad, can I stop taking the pills Mom gives me?" It's about instinct. It's about paying attention to the small things. It's about trusting the fear in your chest when something feels wrong. It's about choosing your child's safety over someone else's lies. If I had ignored Sophie that night, if I had dismissed her words, if I had trusted Audrey blindly, I might have lost my daughter, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, permanently. I thank God every day that I listened, that I acted, that I became the father Sophie deserved. Today, when I tuck her into bed and watch her sleep peacefully, without drugs, without confusion, without fear, I know this: I didn't just save my daughter, I saved myself. And I will never again ignore the quiet voice that says, something is wrong. Because sometimes that voice is the only thing standing between the child you love and the darkness you don't yet see. And sometimes that voice is the only thing that can save a life 6 months after the storm settled. Life in the new apartment felt quieter, lighter, almost too quiet at times. The kind of quiet where your mind finally has space to breathe, but also space to remember. I thought once the court granted full custody, once the boxes were unpacked, once Sophie smiled again, the weight inside me would lift fully. But healing is strange. It doesn't show up all at once. It arrives slowly in pieces, as if time hands them to you when you're finally ready to hold them. Sophie was adjusting faster than I expected. Children are resilient in ways adults often aren't. Her grades improved, the confusion in her eyes had faded, and the fog that once clung to her like a shadow was finally gone. She laughed more now, real laughter, the kind that lights up her whole face. Sometimes I would just watch her draw at her desk, humming softly, and the simple sight of her being herself again almost brought me to tears. But even though Sophie was healing, I found myself struggling with the ghosts left behind. I hadn't realized how deeply Audrey's betrayal had carved into me until life finally slowed down enough for me to feel the cuts. Night after Sophie went to bed, I'd stand by the living room window staring out at the lake, watching the lights shimmer across the water, wondering how I never saw the signs. How I let a stranger sleep beside me for years pretending to be my wife. I wasn't angry anymore, not like I was. Anger burns hot but dies fast. What lingered now was something quieter, heavier. Grief, not grief for Audrey, but grief for the life I thought I had, for the version of marriage I believed in, for the man I used to be. One night around 11:30, while the world outside was silent and the apartment dimly lit by the lamp beside the couch, I found myself replaying the moment Sophie first told me about the pills. That tiny trembling voice, that fear in her eyes, and suddenly I felt overwhelmed with guilt so intense it almost knocked the breath out of me. I should have seen it sooner. I should have protected her earlier. I should have known. See, she asked in that sleepy voice that always softened me. I straightened quickly. Yes, sweetheart, I'm okay. Why are you awake? I had a dream, she mumbled, walking over and climbing onto the couch beside me. A bad one. I put my arm around her. Do you want to talk about it? She shook her head. I just wanted to sit with you. We sat in silence for a while. Her head rested against my chest. Her breathing slowed. The weight of the world that had been crushing me all night suddenly lifted just a little. Dad, she said softly. Yeah, baby, you're not sad because of me, right? My chest tightened. No, I whispered immediately, holding her closer. Never because of you. You're the best part of my life. She hesitated. Then why do you look sad sometimes? Kids notice everything, even the things we try to hide. I'm not sad about you, I said carefully. I'm just healing. Grown-ups take longer to heal than kids do. She considered that. Like when I scraped my knee and it took a week to fix. Exactly, I said with a small smile. But grown-up hurts take longer because they're not on the outside. They're in here. I tapped my chest. She nodded slowly. I can help, she said, placing her tiny hand over mine like she was offering the whole world. I can help you heal. Those words, so simple, so pure, hit harder than any heartbreak ever could. I kissed the top of her head and closed my eyes. You already are, sweetheart, every day. She stayed with me on the couch until she fell asleep again, her breathing calm. I carried her gently back to her room, tucked her in, and stood there watching her. Even asleep, she had a peace on her face that had been missing for so long, and that peace, that was everything. That was the reason I kept going. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. School drop-offs, my work, dinners together, movie nights, weekend art projects. I learned how to braid her hair, messily at first, until she taught me the trick. She learned how to make grilled cheese sandwiches, burned one side, perfect on the other, but she was proud. We found a new life in the small things, a new rhythm, a new family, just us. Then, in early May, I got an email from Audrey. Subject line, can we talk? I stared at it for a long time, not because I wanted to talk, but because part of me wondered what she had left to say. I didn't respond, not immediately. I took the day to think, to breathe, to remember. That night after Sophie went to bed, I finally opened the email. Harrison, I know I have no right to ask for anything. I know I've done unforgivable things. I'm in therapy now. I'm trying to change. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to understand if there's any way I can be part of Sophie's life again. I miss her. I'm sorry for everything. a long apology, an explanation, words that would have shattered me once. Words that might have mattered years ago, but now they felt empty. I didn't reply. 2 days later, I got a call from Judith. Her voice was soft, tired, older somehow. "Harrison, I want you to know I'm proud of you. You protected Sophie. You did what needed to be done. My daughter, she made choices I don't understand, but I want you to know that you and Sophie will always have me." Her support meant more than she knew. She asked if she could see Sophie that weekend. I said yes. Saturday morning, Judith arrived with pastries and art supplies. Sophie ran to her, hugging her tightly. Watching them together filled the room with a warmth that had been missing for too long. Later that afternoon, while Sophie and Judith painted at the table, I stepped out onto the balcony. The lake breeze brushed against my face. The city felt alive, and for the first time in a very long time, I felt calm, no fear. No bitterness, no exhaustion, just a fragile, honest calm. I realized then that healing isn't a moment, it's 1,000 small moments, 1,000 choices, 1,000 breaths, and we had finally begun to breathe again. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline and the apartment glowed orange, Sophie curled up beside me with her sketchbook. "Dad," she said, handing me a drawing, "I made this for us." It was a picture of our apartment, drawn in bright colors, the windows filled with yellow light, two stick figures, her and me, standing together, smiling. Above it, in her handwriting, our new life. My throat tightened. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "Do you like it?" "I love it, more than you know." She grinned and leaned against me. "We're okay now, right?" I wrapped my arm around her. "Yeah," I said softly. "We're okay," and for the first time since everything fell apart, I truly believed it. Life sometimes gives you a moment, a quiet, almost invisible moment, where you suddenly realize you're no longer living in the shadow of the past. A moment where you catch yourself smiling without forcing it, laughing without watching your own shoulders for tension, waking up without that heaviness pressing against your ribs. For me, that moment came unexpectedly on a warm June morning. Sophie and I were sitting at a small cafe near the lake. She had just finished her last day of school before summer break. She was excited, her feet swinging under the chair, her hair glittering in the sunlight, her voice animated as she talked about art club and the mural project her class was starting next year. She was glowing in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. Halfway through her chocolate croissant, she looked at me with a smile so genuine it felt like sunlight settling directly onto my chest. "Dad," she said quietly, "I like our life." Those 4 simple words hit harder than any long speech ever could. I reached out, brushed a crumb from her cheek, and nodded. "Me too, sweetheart." We spent the rest of the day walking along the lakefront, collecting pebbles, laughing at ducks, sharing ice cream, taking pictures. The little things, the things I once took for granted, the things I now cherished like treasure. That evening, after Sophie fell asleep curled up with her sketchbook, I received a text message. It was from Audrey. "Please, can I see her, just once without being supervised? I'm doing better." "I'm trying." I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me felt a flicker of old sadness. Another part felt anger, but the biggest part of me felt absolutely nothing. Just emptiness, like she was a stranger whose name I only vaguely remembered. I typed a reply slowly, deliberately. "I'm glad you're trying, but Sophie's safety and healing come first. She's not ready. And I won't put her in a situation that risks her progress. When she decides she wants more contact, I'll let you know. Until then, supervised visits remain. No anger, no poison, just truth." I hit send. And that was the moment I realized I was done carrying her shadow. The next morning, I took Sophie to the farmer's market. Judith joined us, as she often did. She walked slowly these days, a little more tired, but she smiled wide when she saw Sophie running toward her with open arms. "My sweet girl," Judith said, hugging her tightly. "Look at you, taller every week." Judith and I shared a look, a silent, understanding look, a look that said we both had lost something, but we also both had something left worth fighting for. A new family, a smaller one, but a real one. Later that week, something unexpected happened. Sophie brought me a sealed envelope. "This came today," she said, handing it to me carefully. The handwriting on the front was familiar, Audrey's. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a letter, not excuses, not begging, not manipulation, just words. Words from someone who had finally seen the damage she caused, someone trying to piece together the ruins of who she once was. "Harrison, I know I may never earn forgiveness. I know Sophie may never trust me again, and I accept that. I'm writing this not to fix anything, but to acknowledge what I broke. I am in therapy. I'm in a recovery program. I'm facing consequences I deserve. I want you to know something. You saved our daughter. You saved her in a way I never could. I failed her, but you didn't." Audrey, I sat with the letter for a long time, mostly in silence, not angry, not relieved, just reflective. I didn't show the letter to Sophie, not yet. One day maybe, when she's older, when she asks for it. But not now, not while her heart is still stitching itself together. A week later, Sophie and I planned a small celebration, a new tradition. "Fresh Start Day," she called it, the anniversary of the day we moved into our apartment. We baked a cake together, a messy one, flour everywhere, icing on her nose, the kitchen turning into a war zone. But her laughter filled the small space and made it feel like a palace. That night, as we sat on the couch eating crooked slices of cake, she leaned against me and whispered, "Dad, do you think everything that happened for a reason?" I looked at her long and hard, her brave little eyes, her steady heart. Her resilience, I think, I said slowly, that sometimes life breaks us so that we can rebuild stronger, and sometimes people show us who they really are so that we can learn who we need to be. She nodded thoughtfully. Will Mom ever be part of our life again? I took her hand gently. That's up to you, I said, and only when you're ready, no pressure, no rush, no expectations. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm not ready yet, that's okay, I said. Take your time, all the time you need. And as she drifted into sleep beside me, her breathing soft and steady, I realized something profound. Sophie didn't just survive the worst storm of her childhood. She outgrew it, she rose above it, she became stronger than it, and in doing so, she made me stronger too. Months passed, seasons changed, Sophie thrived in school. Joined the art club officially, started taking piano lessons, filled our apartment with music both messy and beautiful. The walls that once echoed with pain now echoed with life. One crisp autumn evening, almost exactly 1 year after the night she first whispered about the pills, we stood together on our balcony watching the sun sink behind the skyline. Sophie slipped her hand into mine and said, "Dad, thank you for being the one who saved me." My throat tightened. "I didn't save you," I whispered. "I just listened. You saved yourself by speaking up." "You were braver than you think," she smiled softly. "We saved each other then, and she was right. Saving her saved me, protecting her rebuilt me, loving her gave me purpose again." As the sun disappeared fully behind the buildings, the city lights flickered on one by one, glowing like tiny promises in the dark. For the first time in a very long time, not because everything was fixed, not because the past had disappeared, not because we hadn't lost anything, but because we had gained something else, a new beginning, a safer home, a healthier heart. A bond stronger than anything that tried to destroy us. The storm was over, the chapter had closed, and our new life, our real life, had finally begun.